Sup gamers, Baragon301 here, and today we're talking about a very controversial topic in the kaiju community, that of course being Ultraman. Now myself always said there are three kinds of people in this world. People who have seen Ultraman and love it, people who haven't seen Ultraman but want to, and people who haven't seen Ultraman and absolutely hate it. I of course am the first one. I definitely say out of the big four of King Kong, Godzilla, Gamera, and Ultraman, the big rubbery hero is definitely my favorite. But the shows have a generally negative stigma amongst the kaiju community here in the West, especially on the Godzilla fanboy side. A lot of those guys haven't seen Ultraman and don't want to for generally stupid reasons. So today, I'm going to be telling you why you should watch Ultraman. I'll start off by going over the many excuses I've heard over the years for why people don't want to watch the show, then I'll get into why you should watch it, and then finally I'll end it off with some series that I recommend starting with. Alright, when it comes to excuses, there are none stupider than the kaiju look ugly and Ultraman looks weird. This is your basic Heisei fanboy critique, grading a show or film based on how the kaiju look, rather than things like the story or heck, even the fights. Now I will admit, I did used to hate Ultraman for his design, but I wasn't introduced to the show like most other people. Let me take you back to a Christmas from long, long ago. Back in the day, my dad said he watched some Japanese show about a size-changing superhero who fought monsters, and he thought it was Ultraman, and since I liked Godzilla as a kid, he got it for me for Christmas. And when I opened that present that morning, I wasn't happy. I remember thinking, what the heck is this? Why is there some weird Power Ranger on the front? I hate Power Rangers. But my parents were like, well, you haven't even tried it yet. So me and my dad watched the first episode, and I was instantly hooked. Also, this wasn't the show my dad was looking for, and I'm pretty sure the show he had watched was Spectraman. Anyways, it goes to show that you just can't judge a book by its cover. The designs of the Ultramen are definitely something you have to get used to over time. It's a very simple design, and that's part of the charm. If he really bothers you, just remember, he's barely even in the show. Most of the time, Ultraman only appears in the last 3 minutes of each episode. But I'm sure he will grow on you, with all the awesome things he does during fights, like blowing up kaiju, dismembering them, and some other really wild things. Now when it comes to kaiju, I'm pretty sure most of the people who think the kaijus are ugly just googled Ultraman kaiju and saw a few of the kaiju from stuff like Ace and Taro, then ran scared. Now I won't deny that there are definitely some pretty ugly and weird Ultra kaiju out there, but if that's really a problem, just don't watch the series with the ugly kaiju. There are tons of Ultraman kaiju, and really only a few shows have an excessive amount of ugly kaiju. A lot of the Heisei Ultra series really don't have those. But there will still likely be those guys who say the more classic kaiju like Twin Tail, Bemstar, and Eleking are weird and ugly. Frankly, I'd blame the lack of unique kaiju in the Godzilla series for this. Now I love Toho's roster of kaiju, but most of them aren't that interesting. What does Godzilla have? Well, they got a big moth, a big pterosaur, a three-headed dragon, a few big dinosaurs, a big demon crab, a big dragonfly, and then there's all the Godzilla variants. That's not to say Godzilla has only bad kaiju, or that these are bad kaiju. There are plenty of unique ones like Gigan, Biolante, and Orga, and these are all pretty popular kaiju. So what's so different about the kaiju in Ultraman? Heck, it's not like they are all super weird. Ultraman has a great mix of more simple designs, weird designs, and more outlandish designs. Sigurath, Beacon, and Prisma are all kaiju from the same show, and there is some great diversity right there. One is a sea monster with some dinosaur inspiration, another is a strange space bug thing, and the other is a singing crystal. And a kaiju's design isn't even half of what makes a good kaiju. Let's take a look at a great example, Jamila. He's a pretty stupid looking kaiju, there's no denying it. But if you've seen the episode, you'll know why people love this guy. Basically, he was once a human, a Russian astronaut, abandoned and forgotten by humanity after an accident in space. Now though, he has come to make humanity pay. Jamila is a great example of a kaiju with a pretty ugly design, but he's still a fantastic kaiju because of his origins and personality. Judging a kaiju film or show based on its monster design is a pretty shallow thing, and people should be willing to give these kaiju a chance. Seeing a still photo of a kaiju and seeing the kaiju move, fight, and hear about its origins are very different things. Another pretty common excuse I hear is that it's not my thing. But, well, if you're into kaiju, it is your thing. I think this idea comes from Ultraman looking like a Power Rangers character. so people automatically assume it's like Power Rangers. But anyone who's seen Ultraman can tell you it's far more like Godzilla. Except for Ginga S. That show is basically Power Rangers. There are generally two types of episodes in Ultraman: Monsters on the Loose and Alien Invasion. And would you look at that, those are basically what all the Godzilla films are. Honestly, I'm not 100% sure what people are even getting at with this reason. Is it because it's not Godzilla? Wouldn't surprise me. The Ultra series is far more like Godzilla than one might think. First of all, the studio that makes Ultraman is called Tsuburaya Productions. Sound familiar? E.G. Tsuburaya did the effects for most of Toho's films before his death in 1970. And during that time, he started his own studio and worked closely with Toho. Toho would lend Tsuburaya a lot of stuff. The most obvious are probably the suits. Godzilla's suit was turned into Gomez and Jiras, Baragon was turned into a variety of Ultra Kaiju, and King Kong, the Giant Octopus, and Rodan all got their puppets and suits reused in Ultra Q. Tsuburaya also used a lot of Toho's sound effects, and many of their actors also appeared throughout the Ultra series. I mean, you'll see tons of Toho actors. There are some pretty big ones like Kenji Sahara, Akihiko Hirata, and my personal favorite, Akira Kubo. There are also some minor Toho actors who end up in pretty major roles, like Yasuhiko Seijo and Susumu Kurobe. Heck, even Haruo Nakajima plays a plethora of early Ultra Kaiju. What I'm trying to say is that these are the people who made Godzilla. What more? Mother freaking Ishiro Honda directed a couple episodes of The Return of Ultraman. Sorry, but Ultraman is more like Godzilla than it is like Power Rangers. Now, on to the more legitimately reasons to be a bit hesitant about jumping into Ultraman. There's too much Ultraman and I don't know where to start. Now, as I already said, I'll be recommending some shows towards the end of this video, so I'll go over this one pretty briefly. The Ultra series releases a new show almost annually. There's a ton of spin-offs and it can get very confusing. Honestly though, you don't have to watch everything. This isn't JoJo. If you skip a series here and there, you won't lose too much. You may not recognize a kaiju or a guest appearance character, but it definitely isn't required that you have to watch all of them. Heck, a lot of Ultra fans have probably done a lot of skipping around over the years. I know I have. There's a lot of Ultraman, but it's not required to watch all of it. The Ultra fan base is usually pretty chill, excluding me. If you skip Ultraman Ace or something, the fan base won't laugh at you or anything like that. Another reason I've heard is I don't have enough time. This reason's pretty understandable. It's a franchise of series. Each show has between 12 and 60 plus episodes. With a movie, you sit down for an hour and a half, 2 hours, just watching the film for the evening. But with the show, you have to consistently watch a bunch of half-hour episodes consecutively every night, and on top of that, there's a ton of Ultra series. However, with Ultra series, you really don't have to consecutively watch the shows since they're episodic. I think the best thing to do is to find an Ultra series that interests you, then just watch the episodes at your own pace. I do understand though, it's a lot harder to watch a show than it is to watch a movie. Now that I've denied your crappy excuses and addressed your more legitimate concerns, let's get into why you should watch the Ultra series. The Ultra series is a series of sci-fi and fantasy shows that follow a group of monster hunters as they investigate strange occurrences dealing with monsters and aliens. Then on the Ultraman side of things, a big alien superhero shows up during the last 3 minutes to kick the bad guy's butt. It's a simple formula that provides for a fairly wide variety of different episodes. Some episodes are simple how do we deal with the monster episodes, but there are plenty of more mystery-based episodes. There are also quite a few episodes that tackle really deep themes like racism and dealing with a country's dark past. Every show has this interesting style that's fairly consistent through the franchise. There's usually a fairly serious atmosphere, but also this sort of childlike wonder. It helps make the show pretty accessible to both young and old kaiju fans. There are a few shows that stray further to one side, but there aren't a ton of these. The Ultra series is just really good sci-fi and mystery to the core. And one of the great things about there being so many Ultra series is that they are all fairly different from one another, but still feel like Ultraman. Some focus more on characters, some focus more on being entertaining, and some focus more on interesting themes and ideas. If you like kaiju, there's going to be something for you. But which series should you start with? There's a lot of Ultraman out there, and everybody has different tastes, so which shows should you start with? Well, what better place to start than with the one that started it all? Ultra Q. Yep, Ultra Q is the true start to the Ultra series and is why it's referred to as the Ultra series and not just Ultraman. So what is this Ultra Q, you may be asking? Well, Ultra Q is often described as the Japanese Twilight Zone, and I've even seen it get compared to the X-Files with its team of people going against strange occurrences formula. The show follows Jun, Ippei, and Yuri as they travel around dealing with monsters and other strange phenomena. Ultra Q sets the stage for what the Ultra series will become, a sci-fi mystery series with fantasy elements and a nice balance of more serious adult themes and more kid-centered themes. Ultra Q only has 28 episodes, so it's the shortest of the Showa Ultra series. If you're someone who is turned off by Ultraman, but enjoy old school sci-fi, I definitely recommend starting with Ultra Q. Some of my favorite episodes are Bear and Spider, Balloonga, The 1/8 Project, The Rainbow's Egg, and the disappearance of Flight 206. One of the unique things about Ultra Q is the variety of episodes. There are some episodes with building-sized threats, some with human-sized threats, and some that really don't have a monster. There's literally an episode about a boxer with a psychic pet lizard who predicts he will lose his next fight, so the dude runs away and becomes a clown. So yeah, Ultra Q is just a fun and enjoyable series with fun characters, unique ideas, and a plethora of crazy and cool kaiju. But maybe you actually are here for Ultraman specifically, so you could always start with the original Ultraman. That's where I, and I'm sure most other Ultra fans, started. The series follows the SSSP, a global defense organization that protects Earth from kaiju and aliens. One of the members crashes into an alien ship, and his life force is merged with an alien known as Ultraman. From there, the SSSP and Ultraman work together to protect Earth. I'll be honest though, I don't think the original Ultraman is as good as it's always hyped up to be. It's certainly a good entry point, but when compared to the later Ultra series, it just isn't quite as good. Honestly, most of my favorite episodes are the ones with the most monsters, like Monster Anarchy Zone and the Mystery Comet Spoonon. Then there's Rascal from Outer Space. That's just a great episode. I think the best way to describe the original Ultraman is as classic. It's got some good characters and memorable monsters, but it just doesn't have enough meat to it. It's very similar to Ultra Q, so it's a pretty good starting point. But if you just want some dang good Ultra, then look no further than Ultra 7. Ultra 7 is basically the Gojira, or Mothra vs. Godzilla of the Showa Ultra series. It's darker and has more emphasis on social commentaries and things like that. The plot follows the Ultra Guard, a branch of the terrestrial defense force that protects Earth from alien invaders. One day a man named Dan Moroboshi shows up and helps them out, eventually joining the team. But Dan has a secret. He's actually an alien named Ultra 7, and when they are in trouble, he can turn into 7 to help out. Now I'll be honest, I wasn't a fan of this show when I initially saw it. I didn't care for its space themes and how much alien invasion plots it had. The show has very few kaiju episodes. Over the years though, the show has definitely come to grow on me, and I've come to appreciate its alien invasion plots. The show is just very smart and has a lot of great episodes. Some of my favorite episodes are Operation Android Zero, The Eye That Shines in the Darkness, The 700-Kilometer Run, and Nightmare on Planet Number 4, just to name a few. Oh, and all the two-part episodes are fantastic. I cried during the final episode. Ultra 7 has some really outlandish and crazy kaiju designs, but if you just like good toku or old-school sci-fi, then I really recommend Ultra 7. And my final recommendation for the Showa series is The Return of Ultraman. Now don't let the name scare you. It's a pretty standalone show, and while Ultra 7 and Ultraman do show up, they're basically cameos. The plot follows Matt as they get a new member, Hideki Go, who has come back to life after saving a boy and a dog during a kaiju attack. Of course, Go was revived by a new Ultraman, Shin Ultraman, who would later be renamed Ultraman Jack. Then it's your standard Ultra stuff, where they fight monsters and aliens. One of the biggest things that sets Return of Ultraman apart from the other series is its focus on Go. Most of the time, we never saw the cast's life outside of the Defense Force, but here we get to see Go constantly struggling with all of his responsibilities. He has to work for Matt, help Sakata rebuild a race car, spend time with his girlfriend, and of course be Ultraman. The characters are all really good in this, and while it's an episodic show, a lot of stuff changes. One of the biggest being how Go grows over time. He's constantly arguing with the other members early on, and gets cocky since he's Ultraman, but he develops and grows stronger through the show. The other characters are all pretty good too. I was jaw-dropped when a certain something happened that I'm not going to spoil around the middle of the show. There are too many great episodes in this show. Fatal Attack Meteor Kick, Operation Monster Rainbow, Poison Gas Monster appears, Here Comes Ultra 7, Mystery Homicide Beetle Incident, The Monster Tamer and the Boy, Cruel Light Monster Prisma, Matt is the name of Space Warriors, and of course, all the two-parters. I'll probably look at the show more in depth later on, but just know that it's tied with Gridman and a certain other show on this list for my favorite show of all time. It's that good. Now, some people aren't too big on the Showa era, as they can be pretty cheesy. Luckily, there's a plethora of Heisei Ultra series. Now I'll just flat out say it, I haven't seen a lot of Heisei Ultra. Heck, I've only finished one of the 4 shows I'm recommending. That doesn't mean they're bad though, I just haven't gotten around to watching the entirety of these 4 shows. The first show I'll be recommending is the one that started the Heisei Ultra series, Ultraman Tiga. After Ultraman 80, Tsuburaya hadn't made an Ultra series in a long time. A few other companies made some Ultra stuff like Towards the Future and Powered, but Tsuburaya's true return was in 1996 with Ultraman Tiga. Ultraman Tiga basically wipes the canon and starts completely fresh. And then it doesn't, but that's like a bunch of lore stuff. The show follows the Defense Force Guts, which of course is defending Earth from monsters and aliens. One of the members, Daigo, walks into a golden pyramid and gets the power to turn into one of the titans inside, Ultraman Tiga. This show is basically classic Ultra with more updated effects. The kaiju aren't as goofy as later Showa series, but they keep that unique style that Ultra kaiju generally have. The show is pretty episodic and has a great variety of episodes. Some are creepy, some are funny, but all are action-packed and epic. Now I've only seen half the series, but what I have seen is all pretty great. Some of my favorite episodes are Inherit the Light, a fantastic first episode, Sayonara Earth, the closed amusement park, A Fog's Coming, and Evil Monster Realm of the Rainbow. And that's only half of the show I've seen. Ultraman Tiga is a great show and feels like a modern take on classic Ultraman. Plenty of Ultra fans will tell you that it's one of the best shows. And now we come to the show that is tied with The Return of Ultraman and Gridman for my favorite show of all time, Ultraman Mebius. Okay, so Ultraman Mebius is actually connected to the Showa Ultra series and takes place on the same Earth and references the older shows a lot. So if you're going to watch those shows, probably watch them first. Still, Mebius does a pretty good job of making sure that the references to the older shows don't go over the new viewers' heads. The plot follows Crew Guys, Earth's latest defense force, as kaiju and aliens are making a return after not appearing for like 20 years. So with the help of a new Ultraman named Mebius, they go and punch the monsters. While Mebius taking place on the same Earth as the Showa Ultra series is a big part of the show, it's not what makes it so dang good. Instead, Ultraman Mebius just has some dang good characters and an interesting story. Each member of Guys is different and interesting. A lot of other shows, the members all feel very samey, but here, each one has an interesting personality, and they are developed over the show. The main protagonists, Mirai and Ryu, are constantly clashing early on in the show, but later on they become the best of friends. And there's a few great episodes that use this very well. The show is episodic, but there are still little overarching plots through the show. They're all pretty interesting and allow for some great episodes. I don't think there's a single episode I didn't like, but some of the best ones are Our Wings, A Swordmaster from Space, Ocean Waves of Time, The Monster Master's Legacy, An Invincible Mother, all 4 of the Heavenly Kings episodes, and there are so many more. If you just want to watch a dang good show, watch Ultraman Mebius. Now I'm sure there's still many of you who aren't too big on Ultraman himself and just want to see some monster action. Luckily, they made Ultra Galaxy Mega Monster Battle and Ultra Galaxy Never-Ending Odyssey. Now I should just quickly say I've only seen a handful of episodes of the first season of Ultra Galaxy, but I definitely enjoy the show. Also, Mill Creek has already announced that it'll be one of the next releases. The plot follows a spaceship responding to a distress call on a planet. They find the place ruined and teeming with monsters. They also find this strange guy who has the ability to summon and control monsters. From there, they go around the planet looking for survivors and trying to figure out what exactly happened, and fighting monsters. All the monsters in the show are from past series, but for a spin-off like this, I think that was a smart idea. You don't need to have watched any of the past shows at all, and it does a good job of filling you in. The best way to describe Ultra Galaxy is like Star Trek meets Dinosaur King. So like fossil fighters. It's been a little while since I've seen Ultra Galaxy, but I highly recommend that you check out the series, especially if you're not too big on Ultraman himself. It's a great introduction to the Ultra series. But maybe you're not too keen on this 2000 stuff. What are they making now? Well, modern Ultra is certainly different. They're very gimmicky, like a lot of other Toku shows nowadays, But they aren't all bad. They still have some solid effects and pretty good stories. I only have 2 recommendations this time, as a lot of other modern Ultra series rely heavily on past Ultra series. These ones do as well, but they aren't as bad as the others. My first recommendation is Ultraman X. Ultraman X is my favorite of the modern Ultra series, as it feels the most like classic Ultraman. It also has a fantastic opening theme. Okay, it's mostly because of the fantastic opening theme. The plot is basically that there's these things on Earth called spark dolls, and sometimes they turn into big monsters. So this team called Zeo is formed to deal with them. One of the characters accidentally gets an Ultraman on his phone and the power to turn into Ultraman X. From there, they fight monsters and try to solve the mystery of the spark dolls. The main 2 gimmicks of the show are the spark dolls, which are left over from Ultraman Ginga, and these cybernetic cards that the main characters put into their phones in order to gain them little power-ups. Of the modern Ultra gimmicks, I think these ones work the best. The new forms X gets are usually just armor based off the kaiju he's defeated, so they feel a little different from the forms that would appear in later Ultra series. So yeah, Ultraman X is just a fun show, and unlike a lot of the other Ultra series, the movie's actually good. And my final recommendation for today is Ultraman Orb. Now if you don't care about the gimmicks and just want a solid show, then Ultraman Orb is your best bet. The plot follows this group of kids trying to film videos of real monsters for their website. They meet up with this strange wanderer who can transform into Ultraman Orb using Ultraman cards. And there's also this evil swordsman named Jugless Juggler who's an absolute chad. The show has a bit of an overarching plot, which is probably what a lot of people like about it. Personally, I don't like how much the monsters feel like pawns. It's still a pretty solid and fun show, my favorite episodes definitely being the Galactron 2-parter. Ultraman Orb is a pretty good show with great characters, but the movie's terrible! So those are my recommendations for the Ultra series. Now just remember, I've only seen like 1/3 of the entire franchise, so I'm sure a lot of other people have different recommendations to start off with. The Ultra series is just some of the best kaiju media out there, and there's never been a better time to get into the franchise with all the new shows, film, Marvel Comics, and Mill Creek releasing all the shows on Blu-ray. There's just never been a better time to get into the series. I hope with this video that I at least got one person into Ultraman, and I hope to see you all again next time.